Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Hunter from Outten Astrophotography, and we have some breaking news. We have some new products being released from ZWO as of a couple minutes ago of this recording, as right now being 10:30 Eastern time on the 25th, so this was about 20 minutes ago. We have some new cameras that are available in the markets for the holiday season, and we also have some very interesting one from Seestar coming up, and unfortunately it's not the S30 Pro as of yet, but that is definitely coming soon. But if you happen to be following ZWO on their Facebook page as of a couple minutes ago, we have some new releases of cameras. Like the first one we're going to be checking out is the brand new ZWO ASI585MM Air. So now we have the monochrome version of the smart camera that includes a guide chip and the ASI Air all together in the package. This right here is going to be a big seller. I can already tell you that now. I have the 585 mono sensor on my Newtonian setup, and it's flawless. I cannot recommend it enough. But let's check out what a little bit of some details in regards to this camera here as we're going over to the ZWO page here. So now we have two versions to choose from when it comes to the 585 series of the Air. We have, the color version, which has been out for a little while now, and it's been a very highly recommended camera, especially for, your more budget and portable setups, because not only you have your controller, you have a guide camera and a guide chip and the camera itself all in one. So those portable rigs that you want to take, anywhere across the world, definitely this sensor is there, and for $899. So now we have the monochrome version, the 585mm Air, which looks like it's going to be retailing for $1,299, which, to be honest, that's not a bad price at all for this camera. Of course, not only you get the ASI Air in itself, which retails roughly between like $300 and $400 for the 256 gigabyte version. We also have the guide chip in there too, which these guide cameras, I want to say they run like $250, and then the sensor itself. So you're getting a lot of bang for buck here. So if you're not familiar with the Air series here, it's basically a smart camera that combines, a 3-in-1, like I mentioned, guiding, imaging, and a smart controller, which is the ASI Air software. So let's go into a little bit of the main sensor specs here. I mean, we're all familiar with the 585 sensor from Sony to IMX. It is a 1x1.2 inch sensor, so it is a pretty small sensor with a 4K resolution of 3840 by 2160. Definitely recommend doing 2x drizzle when you use this, so you get a little bit more of a bigger, file size and resolution to work with. Has an ADC of about 12-bit, not too terribly bad. And frames per second for this model here is a little bit slower compared to what you would get from just the regular 585 sensor, just because it has to integrate so many more things in here. So if you want the kind of more all-around camera to even do some planetary, definitely would just go with the regular 585 color or the monochrome version, which you're getting frames per second at the full resolution size of 4K, roughly like 40 to 50 FPS. Quantum efficiency with the color camera version, you get 88%, pretty good. Mono, you get a little bit more at 91, so that does make a big difference. Read noise wise, down to 0.7. I mean, very, very minimal read noise with this camera. And even at the higher gains of like 200 plus, the read noise is still very, very low. Cooling temperature can cool down to about 30 to 35 degrees Celsius below ambient temperature. And this one has an onboard SSD, the eMCC, which is 256 gigabytes of space to hold all of your images together, basically what a normal ASI Air would be, which has Wi-Fi 5 at 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. I definitely just normally recommend using 2.4 because it has a little bit of a more reliability and a further distance. As far as the full well, For the color camera, you're looking at 40ke, and the mono a little bit less at 38.7, but definitely the main takeaway for this is with the 585 sensors is that smaller pixel scale at 2.9. That makes such a huge difference when doing deep sky astrophotography, because you can really get some very nice details in with the center. But with the guide sensor, we're looking at the sensor from Sony, the SE2210, which has been a great starburst sensor. It is a 1 and 1.8 inch sensor, so it's a little bit actually bigger than the actual sensor itself for the 585, with a resolution of a full 1080p. Frames per second 8.5 at that full 1080p resolution, with a quantum efficiency of 92%. So it is very sensitive with a low read noise. So here's a little bit more of, just a generalization of everything together. Intelligent live stacking feature, what you would get from the ASI Air, has a high signal to noise ratio and sensitivity, and some very fast read speeds too, at 138 megabytes per second read speeds, or 112 megabytes per second for the write speed, and uses the Sony Starbus 2 technology, which is very, very sensitive to, the starlights, and basically to get those nice fine details. So basically everything together, the guide sensor, the cool camera, and the ASI Air, all together from this. I never actually used one of these Air versions as of yet. Hopefully sometime in the future, maybe I might be able to test one of these out. But here on the back, we actually have a bit of a change, especially with the formatting of the ZWO cameras as of lately, with the new versions coming out, like the new 2600. So here on the back, we have 4 USB 2.0 ports for, connecting anything else like dew heaters, your mounts, basically controlling everything. You also have 2 outputs for a DC 12 volt 10 amps. So one to power your camera, and you have a power out as well. And you have a type USB-C for faster file transfers. But if you know how to connect it and access it through your computer, you don't actually have to plug it into a computer itself. You can just go directly to like / ASI Air, and you'll be able to access your files right over the network, which is a super helpful thing. Gone over the Starbus 4K sensor and everything else with the 585. There is no amp glow. We are definitely past the time of sensors having amp glow and have to rely on dark. So a lot of times you don't even need dark frames anymore because of this, because there is 0 amp glow. So it also uses a dual band Wi-Fi for stable signal, which helps for anything for about 20 meters away, but it will also have the ability to repeat over your network too. So you will be able to, connect this to your home network, so you can be inside and control everything. Also has cross-platform device control, except for the ASI Air app. The 2600 Air, for this one, can use the ZWO proprietary software, ASI Studio, and also third-party software is kind of like Nina through ASCOM and Alpaca and all that good kind of stuff. Pretty much everything to go. You have also instant post-processing and sharing if you're into that kind of stuff. You want to share it with your friends or with the ZWO community that is online. And it has a 2-stage tech cooling ability to cool it down to 30 to 35 degrees Celsius below ambient temperature. And here is where things changed a little bit now when it comes to the low read noise and the high conversion gain, because of some new firmware that came out roughly, I think it was like 2 to 3 months ago. So when we're looking at these charts here, there is some big differences now when looking at the high conversion gain. So you can see from the DR stops, once we get down to like 200 gain, we shoot right back up to that 1280C. And before, with the original 585 sensor, the high conversion gain was at 252. So it was pretty darn high, but now we are back down to 200. So we're going to get a big increase in our signal to noise ratio and a lower re-noise when we use that high conversion gain at 200. But what I found out with the 200 gain, especially with doing broadband and with some faster, scopes like f3.5 like I have, it is pretty easy in my Bortle 4 or 5 skies to kind of really blow out your images a little bit, even at 200 when trying to do 2-minute exposures. I have to drop it down to 100, but if you're using the 200 for narrowband, it is perfect where it is and get that nice low read noise, especially for those fainter nebulas out there. And same thing with the monochrome version, down at an even lower read noise too, of like minuscule down to 1. The quantum efficiency for the color version, you can see we also tap in a little bit into the infrared spectrum there. And for the monochrome version, yeah, you can actually tap into the infrared spectrum here once you're going over like the 900 nanometer wavelengths. And the dark curtains over time, of course, lower the sensor temperature, the lower the dark curtains are going to be, and the power consumption and all that kind of stuff. It does have built-in filters, like a UV IR cut when it comes to the color version, and for the monochrome version, it has a anti-reflective coating protective window, which means you have to at least have a UV IR cut if you're imaging with this camera. Now you're going to have bloated stars. So all in all, very, very awesome that we now have both the color and the monochrome version of this phenomenal camera that we have in ZWO. So what if you're not into the smaller sensors and you want to go big? Well, we do have a big sensor now that's in the market. I want you to meet the brand new ZWO ASI4400MC Pro. This is a new full frame sensor, and it is a very, very good sensor too. So here is a look at the brand new 4400MC, which is a 44 megapixel sensor, very high megapixel, back illuminated full frame sensor with a high dynamic range. And here is the nitty gritty details, and it uses the new IMX366 sensor from Sony. Full frame sensor at 36 by 24 millimeter, and the resolution size is whopping 8192 by 5460. So it's not quite as massive like the 6200, and it's a little bit bigger from the previous 2400. So this full frame sensor is kind of like the middle ground between those two, with an ADC of 14-bit. I also like to mention that this camera here is retailing for $29,999, so $3,000, not too bad, kind of in that middle ground. Frames per second, you're not really going to be doing planetary with this at 8.3. Quantum efficiency at 80%, so pretty darn good. Full well at 74.3. That is pretty darn good. Also with a cooling temperature of 30 to 35 degrees below ambient temperature. Uses DDR3 512 megabyte on board, and it's USB 3 with a read noise of 1.1. And the difference between this one and some of the, like the 2400 and the 6200, it has a pixel size of 4.4 microns. So it's not as low as the 6200 at 3.76, but it's also smaller than the 2400, which we actually have a nice comparison here a little bit further down the line. Here is some test images here. This is from Nico Carver at Nebula Photos, who tested this sensor out here. It shows a beautiful view of the Pleiades star cluster and the IFN and the nebulosity of the Menrope right near the Pleiades star cluster. And we also have from Jose Soreto of fitting the entire North American Nebula and the Pelican Nebula as well. So with the latest additions, it's kind of positioned, like I mentioned, between the 6200 and the 2400, and it strikes the balance between, image quality and efficiency, giving a versatile option for the full frame lineup. So we go from the options of 2400 at 24 megapixels to 44 to 62. Pixel scale 5.94 to 4.4 to 3.76. and everything else is all pretty much the same across the board as far as the read noise, besides the 6200, which has a little bit lower of a read noise capability. And this is a great illuminated sensor, and you can see even with a 107 millimeter APO refractor at f7 with a full frame sensors, you can fit the entire Andromeda galaxy in your field of view, which is really darn cool. So everything else besides that, this is also another sensor with no amp glow, so that's always super helpful. So you get this nice flat field all the way across with your darks. If you want to take darks with this camera, has a built-in dew heater like most of the cameras from basically the 2600 on larger have this built-in dew heater. Also has a sensor tilt adjustment, so you can fine-tune in case you have a little bit of some tilt with your sensor. As far as the read noise and full well depth, looks like the gain, the high conversion gain for this is at 136 gain. And what's really interesting about this here, which we get the full about 13 to 14 stops, you definitely want to take advantage for this one of that high conversion gain, because that is a big difference in between that read noise at 6.0 about down to about 1.6. That's a big difference, and you want to definitely compensate that more. And you can also push that down, I can say even like 150 or 200 gain too. You're going to get a little bit more of a lower read noise and sacrificing maybe just one stops in your data overall. Quantum efficiency peak with this camera here. Also looks like you can tap into the infrared spectrum here, but you're not going to be able to do that with the color camera, which I know eventually they're going to have a monochrome version of this sensor within time. So because it does have a built-in UV IR cut, which is very typical for one-shot color cameras, so it blocks out the infrared spectrum, so you don't get those bloated stars that you would see with those kind of cameras. So it is a lightweight body, has 700 grams for, you know, the weight of this camera. And on the back of it, you have two USB 2.0s. You have the USB 3 that you would plug into like your ASI Air or your mini computer. And of course you have the plug-in here for your power to your camera, which is a DC 12 volt 3 amp. Looks like you get the included extenders, typical of the 55 millimeter back focus in itself. And it looks like you would get, you know, hex key, the back focus, the camera bag, quick start guide, a USB 3.0 cable, a 2.0 cable, and a M42 to M48 adapter. So yeah, that's really cool. We have a brand new full frame sensor here that is kind of like that middle ground for $3,000. So that's pretty good for those who want to really dive into those really big sensors for not too bad of a price. Maybe this one fits your alley here. But that is the new updates for ZWO as far as for camera wise. But we also have something interesting too from Seestar, which is off branch from ZWO. We have the Seestar Binoculars, which is kind of cool. When I first saw this, I thought, I was like, are we getting a smart telescope binocular setup? No, it's just regular binoculars in itself. They're kind of cool in a way. They're pretty small in size here. So you're looking at a magnification of an 8x24 with an 8x magnification. So the field of view of 126 meters to 1,000 meters. Objective lenses around 24. Apparent field of view is 7.2. Has a little has the eye relief of 13 millimeters. I'm not too much knowledgeable when it comes to looking at binoculars, but for some people, you know, people love this for like bird watching, terrestrial viewing, you know, or hiking and stuff like that. So this is also being on sale for $69 from Seestar Black Friday, with the sale going on right now. So if you have any interest in these products, I will have some links down in the description below where to go to. Basically, I'm not sure if you can actually buy these right off the bat right now. We can go ahead and check with the Facebook page, and looks like they are available. It might be a pre-order, so might be a little bit of time to get it in. So if you want these potentially before the holidays, put your order in now. Like I mentioned, have the links down in the description of where to buy these cameras or the binoculars. So I hope this was informative. I love talking about new technology here. Maybe I can, test out these products for myself in person. We'll see. But hope that info was good for you, and clear skies. See you in the next video. Cheers. Thanks for watching.